The mahogany conference room gleamed with the quiet arrogance of old money. Every inch of it, every polished surface, every gold-edged portrait of forgotten ancestors, whispered of generations who'd never known hunger, failure, or the sting of being laughed at. The Harrison family sat in perfect formation around the long table, a congregation of power suits and practiced smiles. They were not mourning Uncle Frank. They were waiting to feed on what he had left behind. William Harrison, Bill as his uncle used to call him, sat among them, his tailored navy suit doing little to hide the tension in his shoulders. He had the face of a man who had spent too many years trying to prove something, and failing just enough to feel it in his bones. His tech startup had burned through investors and goodwill alike, leaving him with polite pity from his siblings and smug contempt from everyone else. Today, though, he hoped that would change. Attorney Margaret Thompson cleared her throat. The sound cut through the murmurs like a gavel. She was a tall, composed woman, her gray hair pinned neatly, her voice calm and deliberate as she unfolded the weathered will. "To my beloved nephew, William Harrison," she began. Bill's heart kicked in his chest. Finally, recognition. Finally, a chance to be seen. "I leave my most precious possession." He straightened. His older brother Marcus shot him a knowing smirk. Patricia, his sister, raised a manicured eyebrow. Even their mother looked faintly relieved. Perhaps Frank had seen something in Bill after all. Perhaps he'd been the only one who still believed. Margaret's voice never wavered. Frank's Gas and Go station, located at 1247 Maple Street, including all buildings, equipment, and surrounding 3 acres. Silence cracked open like a fault line. Then came the laughter. Marcus let out a choked cough that turned into a guffaw. "A gas station? Oh, that's rich." Patricia covered her mouth with her hand, pretending to hide her grin. "Congratulations, Billy," she said sweetly. "Looks like you're moving up in the world. Premium unleaded and all." Bill's face burned. His ears roared with blood and humiliation. The attorney's words blurred as his family's laughter swelled, echoing off the polished walls. They'd always seen him as the failure, the charity case in designer shoes. Now it seemed Uncle Frank had made it official. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Bill could see the city skyline, glass towers glinting like knives in the morning sun. His siblings owned penthouses there. His cousins ran firms and trusts. And here he was, the new proud owner of a decaying roadside gas station. "There's more," Margaret said firmly, raising her voice above the noise. The laughter tapered off, though smirks remained. "The will specifies that the property cannot be sold for 1 full year. William must operate the business personally during this period." The room erupted again. "Operate it?" Marcus wheezed, nearly spilling his coffee. "He can't even operate a toaster without breaking it." But Margaret's gaze lingered on Bill, her expression unreadable. She tapped a finger lightly against a sealed envelope at her side. Aged paper. Frank's familiar slanted handwriting across the front. "Mr. Harrison," she said quietly, sliding it toward him. "Your uncle instructed me to deliver this to you privately." When the others finally left, their laughter still hanging in the air like perfume, Bill remained in his chair, staring at the envelope. Margaret waited a moment, then said, "Your uncle was very specific about that property. He believed its true value would be revealed only to someone who cared more about people than profit." Bill frowned. "He knew I'm not exactly the charity type." A small, knowing smile touched her lips. "Perhaps he knew you better than you think." When she left him alone, the room felt cavernous, the ticking of the grandfather clock impossibly loud. Bill ran his thumb along the envelope's edge before finally breaking the seal. Inside was a single piece of yellowed stationery, written in Frank's familiar looping script. "Billy, what you seek is not in the station itself, but in the heart of someone pure. Trust the child who knows my secret. She comes every Thursday at 3 p.m. Uncle Frank. Bill read it twice, 3 times. A child, a secret? His throat tightened. He looked out the window again, rain now streaking the glass. Somewhere, beyond those towers and taunts, an old gas station waited, and with it a mystery he hadn't asked for. For the first time in years, the laughter of his family faded into the background. All that remained was Frank's voice in his mind, calm and certain, Thursday at 3, and something in Bill Harrison's world, though he didn't yet know why, shifted forever. Rain chased Bill Harrison all the way across town, slanting through the gray afternoon like the world itself was mocking him. The windshield wipers beat a slow, uneven rhythm, and with every swipe he saw the city dissolve behind him. The glass towers, the spotless sidewalks, the life he was supposed to belong to. Ahead, Maple Street waited, a stretch of cracked asphalt that hadn't seen progress in decades. When he finally turned into the gravel driveway of Frank's Gas and Go, his BMW looked absurd there, sleek, foreign, out of place among the ruins. The sign that hung from rusted chains creaked in the wind. Cold drinks, hot coffee, warm hearts. Someone, probably long ago, had scrawled beneath it in crooked handwriting, "Credit cards welcome when machine works." Bill killed the engine and stepped out. The smell hit him first, an old oil, rain-soaked dust, something metallic and forgotten. The canopy over the pump sagged like an old man's back, streaked with rust and bird droppings. The windows of the store were so smeared with grime that the inside looked like it existed in another world. He unlocked the door. It groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Rows of shelves leaned at odd angles, half empty and dust-choked. A faded welcome mat was more whole than fabric. A radio on the counter sat dead and silent beside an ancient register that might have last rung up a sale before smartphones existed. "This is my inheritance," he muttered bitterly. His voice echoed back at him, hollow and lonely. A thunderclap rolled in the distance. For a fleeting moment, Bill almost turned around, ready to leave the whole mess behind. But something stopped him. Not logic, not even hope. Just the quiet defiance of a man who'd already been laughed at enough for one lifetime. He flipped the switch on the wall. Against all odds, one lonely fluorescent bulb flickered to life, buzzing like an angry insect. It illuminated the cracked tiles, the stains on the counter, the ghosts of fingerprints on the glass. Then came the voice. "You must be Frank's nephew." Bill spun around. An elderly man stood in the doorway, holding an umbrella speckled with rain. His skin was dark and weathered, his eyes soft but sharp. He wore a gray cap pulled low and a raincoat that had seen better decades. "I'm Earl Washington," the man said, stepping in and offering his hand. His grip was firm, his palm calloused. "Lived across the street 43 years. Your uncle was a saint, son. A real one. Not like the TV kind." Bill blinked, thrown by the man's tone. Reverent, almost protective. "A saint? You mean this guy?" He gestured to the decaying walls. "He left me a gas station that's worth less than my car tires." Earl smiled faintly. "Maybe he wanted you to learn something you couldn't buy." Bill frowned. "I don't need a lesson. I need a break." "Maybe that's the same thing," Earl said simply. The rain had softened outside, falling in a rhythm that seemed to fill the silence between them. Earl wandered the store slowly, touching a few things. The counter, a broken stool, a small framed photo near the register. He picked it up and wiped the glass with his sleeve. "Frank used to keep a jar right here," he said quietly. "Called it the Warm Hearts jar. Folks would drop in whatever they could, coins, bills, IOUs. When someone in town fell short on gas or rent or medicine, he'd dip into that jar." Bill stared. He was running a charity out of a gas station? Earl chuckled. "You say that like it's crazy, but he never turned anyone away. He said this place wasn't about fuel for cars, it was about fuel for people." Bill shook his head, looking around at the cracked floors and dying light fixtures. "Well, looks like the tank ran dry." As he spoke, the wind slammed the door open with a loud bang. A small shape darted inside, shaking rain from tangled hair. A little girl, no older than 9, barefoot, holding a notebook plastered with stickers. She froze when she saw Bill. "Sorry," she squeaked. "I just came to get my drawing. I left it here." Bill blinked. "Do I know you?" Earl smiled gently. "That's Lila, comes by every week. Used to sit on the curb with Frank, drawing pictures and talking about the stars." Lila crept to the counter and retrieved a page tucked under a dusty coffee cup. On it was a sketch, the gas station drawn in delicate pencil lines, but beautiful somehow. The pumps weren't broken. The windows sparkled. Even the sign gleamed as if it had just been painted. Bill felt something stir. Nostalgia, maybe, or guilt. "You drew this?" She nodded shyly. "Mr. Frank said one day this place would shine again. He said it had a secret," Earl chuckled. "She's been saying that for a year now." Bill's attention sharpened. "A secret?" Lila shrugged, her big brown eyes wide and earnest. He told me that under the floor where it hums there's something important. But he said only someone kind would find it. Bill laughed, the kind of short, hollow laugh that hides disbelief. Yeah, well, that rules me out. The girl tilted her head. Maybe not yet. Before he could respond, she ran out into the rain, skipping through puddles as if the storm didn't exist. Bill watched her disappear down the street, her small figure swallowed by the gray. Earl lingered by the door. Frank believed in people, son, not things. If he left this place to you, there's a reason. Bill sighed, looking down at the key still clutched in his hand. Heavy brass, worn smooth by years of use. Yeah, he muttered, a cruel joke. But as Earl left and the rain eased into a drizzle, the station seemed to breathe differently, like it was waiting for something. Bill turned off the lights and was halfway to his car when he heard it. A low, rhythmic hum coming from beneath the service bay floor. Not the wind, not the pipes. A steady pulsing vibration, faint but undeniable. He froze, his pulse quickening. In the stillness, he could almost hear Frank's voice and the warm, amused tone that used to calm him when he was a kid. What you seek is not in the station itself, but in the heart of someone pure. Bill looked toward the road where the little girl had vanished. Thursday, 3 p.m., the same time written in the letter. The hum beneath his feet deepened, like the earth itself was whispering a secret. And for the first time since that humiliating meeting in the conference room, Bill Harrison didn't feel like laughing or quitting. He just felt watched. As thunder rumbled again over Maple Street, the lights inside the gas station flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. The next Thursday arrived with a strange electricity in the air. The morning sky was a heavy quilt of gray clouds sagging low over Maple Street, and the scent of rain clung to everything. Bill Harrison sat behind the counter of Frank's Gas and Go, nursing a cup of instant coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. He hadn't planned on coming back, not really. But something about that hum, the one he'd heard beneath the floor last week, had gnawed at him all week like a half-remembered song he couldn't shake. He had spent the days since trying to fix the place, sweeping floors, clearing cobwebs, scrubbing grime off the glass with paper towels that disintegrated in his hands. But the more he cleaned, the more the gas station seemed to push back, as if the dirt was part of its skin, as if time itself refused to let go. Still, there was something oddly grounding about the work. No investors, no boardrooms, no judgment, just the rhythm of the broom and the slow drip of rain leaking through the roof. For the first time in years, Bill wasn't pretending to be someone else. The old bell above the door jingled. He looked up, and there she was. Lila, barefoot again, wearing an oversized yellow raincoat that swallowed her thin frame. Her hair was tied in 2 uneven braids, and in her hands she clutched the same sketchbook from before, now swollen with pages. She smiled when she saw him. You came back, she said simply. Bill smirked. I own the place. Sort of have to. You don't have to, she said, walking toward the counter. Lots of people leave. Her tone carried no accusation, just truth. Spoken with the blunt wisdom only children possess, yeah. Well, Bill muttered, glancing toward the floorboards. I guess I'm curious about that secret you mentioned. Lila's eyes brightened. The hum? Bill blinked. You've heard it too? She nodded solemnly. Mr. Frank said it's the heart of the station. He said it talks to good people. He snorted softly. Then I guess it's been quiet for a long time. Lila didn't laugh. Instead, she opened her sketchbook and turned it toward him. The page showed the gas station again, but this time, she'd drawn light pouring up through the cracks in the floor like golden veins. Above it, a figure stood holding a key. The figure's face was hidden, but its outline looked uncannily like Bill's. He felt a chill crawl up his arms. Where did you see this? I didn't, she said, eyes steady. I just drew it after the dream. Bill stared at her. You dream about this place? Every week since Mr. Frank went to heaven. Before he could respond, a voice called from outside. Hey, you open? Bill turned as a pickup truck pulled up beside the pumps. A man in a mud-stained jacket stepped out waving a 20. Need gas, buddy? Been waiting since this place closed. Thought maybe it was dead for good. Bill hesitated, then grabbed the nozzle. You're in luck. Guess it's alive again. When he finished, the man smiled and pressed an extra bill into Bill's hand. Frank used to say this place ran on more than fuel. Said it ran on faith. Bill pocketed the money, but his mind was elsewhere. On the words alive again. After the truck rolled away, he turned back to Lila. "Show me," he said suddenly. "Show you what?" "The hum. Where it comes from." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. "Okay, but we have to be quiet." He doesn't like loud. He? Bill thought. Lila led him into the service bay where the air smelled of rust and dust. In the corner near a broken hydraulic lift, she knelt and tapped the ground. "Here," she whispered. Bill crouched beside her. The floorboards felt warm beneath his palm, faintly vibrating like something alive pulsed deep below. "Could be a pipe," he muttered. "Or an old generator." Lila shook her head. "No. Mr. Frank said it's the station's secret heart. He said it keeps sleeping until the right person wakes it up." He almost told her she was imagining things, but something about the heat, the faint rhythm under his skin, silenced him. It wasn't mechanical. It was deeper, slower, almost organic. Lila traced a small crack in the floor with her finger. He used to sit here every Thursday at 3. Said it was the hour the earth breathes. Bill's phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from his brother, Marcus. "Heard you're playing gas attendant now. Cute. Let me know when you're ready to sell that dump." Bill clenched the phone, feeling the familiar sting of ridicule. But this time something in him shifted. He slid the phone back into his pocket without replying. Lila was watching him. "They don't believe in you, do they?" He met her gaze. "No, they never did." "Mr. Frank did," she said softly. "He said you'd come back when you were ready to listen." "Listen to what?" "The station." The hum deepened suddenly as if reacting to her words. The lights flickered, then steadied. Bill stumbled back, startled. "What the—" Lila smiled faintly. "It knows you now." He wanted to argue, to rationalize, to tell himself this was just some weird wiring issue. But deep inside, beneath the layers of logic and pride, something old stirred. Something that remembered believing in impossible things. That night, long after Lila had gone home, Bill stayed. He sat on the oil-stained floor with a flashlight and pried at the crack she'd shown him. The concrete flaked, revealing a faint seam too straight to be natural. His pulse quickened. He fetched a wrench from the wall, wedged it into the gap, and pulled. The slab shifted, groaned, then gave way. Beneath it was a small metal hatch, engraved with the initials FH and a rusted keyhole. Bill's breath caught. He reached for the brass keys the attorney had given him, 20 of them, heavy and mismatched. He tried one after another. Nothing fit. Then near the bottom of the ring he found a small, ornate key unlike the others, delicate with an engraved heart on the bow. He turned it in the lock. The hatch clicked open. Inside, instead of the treasure he half expected, money, documents, anything tangible, there was only a single object, a dusty old tape recorder and a folded note. He unfolded the paper with trembling hands. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Billy, if you've made it this far, it means you've started to see instead of just look. The secret isn't the machine. It's what powers it. Trust the child. Protect her. And when the hum stops, follow where the silence leads." The hum beneath him pulsed once, hard enough to make the tape recorder rattle. Then slowly, it began to fade. The station fell silent, and Bill Harrison, alone under flickering light, felt the ground shift beneath his feet, as if he had just stepped into a story far larger than himself. The gas station was silent except for the rain ticking on the tin roof. Bill crouched on the cold floor, the letter trembling between his fingers. Trust the child. Protect her. The words pulsed in his head. He lifted the tape recorder, wiped a layer of grime off the metal casing, and pressed play. A hiss of static filled the room, then a voice, faint, crackling, but unmistakably Uncle Frank's. "If you're hearing this, Billy, I guess I didn't get to tell you in person. I hope you didn't come looking for money. The world's full of men chasing numbers. I wanted one who'd chase meaning." A pause. Thunder rolled outside, soft but near. "You'll find things here that don't make sense. Don't fight them. Just listen. The heart of this place beats when someone believes in it and in people. If you've met Lila, then you're already halfway there. Protect her. She carries more than you think." The tape clicked off. Bill sat motionless, the recorder warm in his hands. "Protect her." He thought of the barefoot girl sketching sunlight out of dust. He thought of the way the hum beneath the floor had stopped, as if waiting for him to decide what came next. He barely slept that night. When morning came, he opened the shop again, cleaned until his knuckles bled, and tried to shake the feeling that the station itself was watching him. At noon, the bell above the door jingled. Earl Washington walked in, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. "You look like a man who's seen a ghost," Earl said. "Maybe I have," Bill muttered. They drank in silence for a while. Then Bill asked, "Earl, you ever hear anything under the floor here? A hum?" Earl's brow furrowed. "Can't say I have. But Frank, he always said this land was alive. Used to sit right out front, talk about how everything we bury tries to come back someday." Bill tried to laugh, but it came out dry. "You think he hid something here?" Earl studied him. "You found something, didn't you?" Bill hesitated, then nodded. "A letter. A recording." He mentioned Lila. At the sound of her name, Earl smiled sadly. That little girl's had a rough go. Her mama worked here for Frank, ran the register nights, cleaned the place when the town forgot it existed. After she passed, Frank looked out for the kid, brought her breakfast every morning before school, said she reminded him of what mattered. Her mother's gone, 2 years now. Bill felt the letter in his pocket grow heavier. Protect her. That afternoon, as the sky dimmed to copper, Lila came running again, out of breath, her raincoat flapping like wings. "Mr. Bill, you gotta see this." She tugged his sleeve, dragging him behind the station where the cracked asphalt met a patch of overgrown grass. Beneath a tangle of weeds stood a rust-eaten shed he hadn't noticed before. The padlock on its door hung open, freshly broken. "Did you do this?" he asked. Lila shook her head, eyes wide. "It was open when I got here. But look inside." Bill pushed the door. It groaned and released a waft of stale air. Inside were dusty shelves lined with jars, hundreds of them, each filled with crumpled notes, receipts, photographs, and tiny envelopes. Every jar had a name taped to it, Earl's name, Mrs. Rodriguez, Jenny Miller. Dozens more. "What is all this?" Bill whispered. Lila smiled, tears glinting in her lashes. Mr. Frank's warm hearts. He stepped closer. The jars weren't filled with money, they held pieces of stories. IOUs, thank you letters, scraps of paper that said things like, "For the groceries. Frank, God bless you." Each jar was a life he had touched. Bill ran his hands across the glass, reading name after name until he reached one marked Lila Mae Collins. Inside was a photograph. Frank, Lila, and a smiling woman with the same eyes, standing in front of the gas station under a summer sky. His chest tightened. "This was your mom?" Lila nodded. "He said we were family." Bill swallowed hard. He meant it. In the back corner, half hidden behind the shelves, something glimmered, a metal box bolted to the wall. Its surface was etched with the same initials as the hatch. FH, he pried it open. Inside was a leather-bound ledger and a ring of smaller keys. The ledger's pages were filled with rows of handwritten numbers, dates, and locations, but between every few pages were gaps, whole sections torn out. "Frank's handwriting," Bill murmured. "But what are these coordinates?" Lila peered over his shoulder. "Maybe the secret?" Bill traced one set of numbers with his finger. 45.3U17N, 3 to 942W. He didn't know why, but the sight of them sent a shiver through him. They left the shed as dusk settled over Maple Street. The gas station lights flickered on by themselves, bathing the lot in pale yellow. For a moment, the pumps looked almost new, their paint glinting faintly like the reflection of a memory. Bill watched the lights, uneasy. "Earl," he said when the old man came to lock up, "did Frank ever mention anything?" "Under the property? Like tanks or wiring?" Earl hesitated. "You mean besides the fuel tanks?" "Yeah." "Well," Earl said slowly, "there was talk years ago. Some company wanted to buy this land. Frank turned them down flat, said they didn't deserve what was under it. We all figured he was talking about oil, but he never drilled. Just smiled that sly smile of his and said, 'Some treasures can't be mined.'" Bill looked out across the lot. The cracked pavement, the flickering lights, the dark soil beneath. For the first time, he believed Frank's words might not have been a metaphor. That night he took the ledger home, spreading it open across his kitchen table. The handwriting looped and curved like a secret code. In the margins were notes in pencil. Remember Thursday. Check Lila's mother's file. Heart sinks with generator. Manual override hidden in bay. He stared until the lines blurred. Heart sinks with generator. He thought of the hum, the way it pulsed in time with his heartbeat, the way it had stopped when he opened the hatch. At 3 a.m, he closed the book and looked out the window. The city skyline gleamed far away, cold and perfect. But somewhere down on Maple Street, in that forgotten station, something was waiting for him. Something that wasn't done breathing yet. He had mocked his uncle's kindness once. He'd thought compassion was weakness. Now he wasn't so sure. The next sunrise bled orange across the rooftops, and Bill Harrison made a decision. He would find out what Frank had hidden beneath the gas station, even if it meant digging up every inch of his own past to do it. Somewhere under those cracked floors, the heart of the station was waiting to beat again, and if the ledger's torn pages were right, unlocking it might cost him far more than pride. The next morning, fog rolled over Maple Street like smoke from a dying fire. The air carried the sour tang of gasoline and wet asphalt. Bill parked outside the station, clutching Uncle Frank's ledger like it was a compass guiding him through a storm. The pump stood silent. The open sign flickered weakly in the window, but behind it the store was still, eerily still, as if the entire place were holding its breath. Bill unlocked the door. The hum beneath the floor hadn't returned, but something else had changed. The air felt charged, faintly metallic. He set the ledger down on the counter, flipping to the page marked, Heart Sinks with Generator. He crouched by the back wall where the breaker panel hung. Dust coated everything except for one small switch, recently wiped clean. Above it, someone had scrawled in faint pencil, Do not turn unless the heart is ready. What the hell does that mean? Bill whispered. The bell above the door jingled and Lila burst in, clutching a folded piece of paper. Mr. Bill, I found something, she said, breathless. He took the paper, unfolding it carefully. It was a map, hand-drawn, yellowed with Uncle Frank's unmistakable handwriting. It showed the layout of the gas station, every pipe, every line, and a small circle drawn beneath the leftmost service bay, marked only with a heart. Bill looked at Lila. Where did you get this? It was inside Mama's Bible, she said softly. I thought maybe it was just one of Mr. Frank's drawings, but I think he meant for you to see it. Bill stared at the circle on the map. That's where the hatch is. They both went to the service bay. The morning light filtered through the cracked windows, throwing long bars of gold across the grease-stained floor. Bill knelt and pried open the hatch again. The air below was colder than before, carrying a strange, faint hum like distant machinery. Stay here, he told Lila, but she shook her head fiercely. No, I'm coming. Mama said secrets ain't meant to be carried alone. He smiled despite himself. All right, but stay close. They descended the narrow ladder into the dark. The smell changed down there. Earth, metal, oil, and something else beneath it. Something electric and alive. Bill turned on his phone's flashlight. The tunnel beneath the gas station stretched farther than he'd imagined, carved roughly from concrete and dirt. On the wall, spray-painted in red, were words that made his blood run cold. Warm Hearts Project Prototype 01. Project? Lila whispered. Bill's mind raced. Frank used to work in mechanical design before he retired. Maybe he built something here. They moved deeper. Cables ran along the walls, leading to a heavy metal door. The humming grew louder, low, rhythmic, pulsing like a heartbeat. Bill found another key on his ring that fit the door's rusted lock. It clicked open with a reluctant groan. Beyond it was a cavernous chamber. In the center stood a cylindrical machine, 10 feet tall, half buried in the dirt. Its surface was covered in blinking green lights and copper wiring. At its base, a small plaque read, Dedicated to the people who believed when the world didn't. F.H. Lila stepped forward, eyes wide. Is it alive? Bill approached cautiously. It's connected to the station's generator, he murmured. Maybe it's some kind of... He stopped. The floor beneath him vibrated faintly at first, then stronger. The machine pulsed in time with his heartbeat. A low tone filled the air, almost like a sigh. Lila gasped. Mr. Bill, look. On one of the panels, words began to glow. Heart registered. Awaiting synchronization. What does that mean? He whispered. I think... It knows you, Lila said. Before he could respond, the lights flickered and the hum grew louder. Too loud. The entire chamber shuddered, dust raining from the ceiling. Bill grabbed Lila and pulled her back toward the ladder. They climbed up, hearts pounding. The hatch slammed behind them as if pushed by unseen hands. Above ground, the gas station lights blazed white-hot, the pumps humming in eerie unison. Earl Washington ran across the street, shouting, "What in God's name are you doing, boy?" I don't know," Bill stammered.
"Something down there's alive."
Earl froze. His face went pale. "He told me this might happen one day," he said quietly. Said if the wrong man opened that door before the right one's heart was ready, the whole thing might wake up angry. Bill's pulse thundered. "What was it, Earl? What did he build?" Earl looked toward the station. Something he called the heart engine. Said it was built to store energy, not from fuel, but from people. Every act of kindness, every good deed he did here, he said it kept the place running. He thought love had power. We all laughed at him for it. The words sank deep. Every act of kindness, energy. Bill turned toward the station. The lights dimmed, flickered, then steadied. The air buzzed like static. Lila took his hand. "Mr. Frank said the station runs on warm hearts," she whispered. "Maybe it's true." Bill looked down at her, this girl who had nothing yet carried more courage than he'd ever known. Then he realized the machine wasn't reacting to greed or curiosity. It was reacting to intent. He'd come here chasing answers, chasing money, chasing pride. But Frank's message had been clear. What you seek lies in the heart of someone pure. He looked at Lila again. "It wasn't me it was waiting for," he said softly. "It was you." Lila blinked, confused. "Me?" he nodded. "You're the only one who believed in this place before anyone else did. You're the pure heart." Outside, thunder rolled again. The storm from days before was returning, heavy and electric. The wind howled through the broken sign. Bill took the ledger, the map, and the keys, pressing them into Lila's hands. "Whatever's down there, it's meant for you to finish." She stared at him, frightened but determined. "We'll finish it together," he smiled faintly. That's what Frank would have wanted. As the rain began to fall, they stood side by side under the buzzing canopy, the lights of the gas station flickering like a heartbeat. Beneath them, the engine hummed faintly, alive again, waiting. But far away in the shadows beyond the streetlights, a black SUV idled, watching. A man in a suit spoke into his phone. "Sir, it's confirmed. The heart engine is active." "Then we move tonight," the voice on the other end replied, and with that, the hum beneath Maple Street deepened into a slow, ominous rhythm like a giant waking from sleep. The secret Uncle Frank left behind was no longer just about kindness. It was power, real, tangible power. And now someone else knew it existed. The storm arrived before sunset. Black clouds swallowed Maple Street, and rain came down in hard, slanted sheets that turned the cracked pavement into rivers of light. Bill stood beneath the awning of the gas station, watching the sky boil. Every thunderclap sounded like the earth's own heartbeat echoing the pulse beneath his feet. Inside, the lights flickered in nervous rhythms. The hum from below had deepened into something almost musical, low notes weaving through the sound of the rain. Lila crouched by the counter, sorting the jars they'd taken from the shed. She was lining them up by name, whispering each one softly like a prayer. With every jar she placed, the station's light grew a little steadier. Earl arrived just before dark, his coat soaked through. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked. Bill nodded. "It's like the air's alive." "It's hungry," Earl said. "Frank told me this would happen if the town forgot how to give. The heart feeds on what we put into it. Lately, there ain't been much love to go around." Outside, lightning flashed, and for an instant, Bill saw the black SUV again, parked across the street. Two men in dark raincoats stood beside it, watching. "They're back," he murmured. Earl's jaw tightened. "They were sniffing around years ago. When Frank died, they thought the engine would die too. But you woke it." Bill felt a knot form in his chest. "Then we have to protect it." A crack of thunder shook the glass. The lights went out. Only the hum remained, vibrating through the floor, louder now, urgent, almost pleading. In the glow of the lightning, Lila's small face looked pale and determined. "Mr. Frank said when the world goes dark, the heart will ask for a spark," she whispered. "That's us, Mr. Bill." They moved quickly. Earl grabbed a flashlight. Bill took the ledger, and together they descended into the hatch once more. The chamber below pulsed with faint red light, the copper wires along the walls glowing like veins. The heart engine was awake, its surface shifting and breathing as though made of living metal. On its face, new words appeared etched in light. Feed or fade. Lila stepped forward. It wants us to choose. Bill remembered the jars upstairs, the people Frank had helped, the love stored in glass. The jars, he said. Each one holds what he gave. Maybe that's the spark. He raced back up the ladder. Outside, the men from the SUV were crossing the street, flashlights slicing through the rain. Bill grabbed as many jars as he could carry, his hands trembling, and hurried back below. He placed the jars around the base of the machine. The moment he set down the first one, Mrs. Rodriguez, a pulse of gold light spread through the chamber. The hum rose in pitch like the machine sighing with relief. "Keep going," Lila cried. They opened more jars. Earl Washington, Jenny Miller, Collins family. Each released a memory into the air, soft visions made of light and sound. Frank handing out food during a blackout, fixing an old car for free, laughing with townsfolk on a summer morning. The memories swirled around them, gentle and bright, sinking into the engine's glowing core. Above them, the men burst into the shop. "You're trespassing on corporate property," one shouted. They moved toward the hatch, but the moment they touched the metal ladder, the hum turned into a roar. The floor lit up beneath their feet, and a gust of hot wind threw them backward as if the building itself had rejected them. Bill looked up at the vibrating ceiling. "It's protecting itself." Lila stood before the engine, tears glistening on her cheeks. "It's not done yet," she said. "It's missing one more heart." Bill realized what she meant. Frank's. The last jar, the one labeled FH, was still in the shed. "I'll get it," he said. He sprinted up the ladder into the storm. Wind tore at his jacket, rain stung his face. The two men were scrambling to their car, shouting into a radio. Bill ran past them, reached the shed, and tore open the door. Lightning illuminated the shelves. He found the jar at once, dust-covered but whole. Inside was a note written in Frank's shaky hand. "If the world ever forgets how to love, remind it. My heart is yours now." Bill clutched it to his chest and ran back through the storm. The SUV's headlights flared behind him. Someone shouted his name. He didn't stop. He threw himself through the shop door and dove down the hatch just as the machine's hum turned into a deep, human-like heartbeat. Lila reached out her hands. Bill placed the jar between them. "Together," he said. They opened it. A rush of light exploded outward, warm, golden, and alive. It flooded the chamber, raced up through the cracks in the floor, and spilled into the night sky. The storm clouds tore apart like curtains. The entire block lit up. Not from electricity, but from something softer, cleaner. The street lamps glowed with steady white fire. The flowers in Earl's garden opened even in the rain. Across town, lights flickered on in houses that had been dark for years. Above the roaring light, Bill heard a voice. Not from the engine, but from everywhere. Frank's voice, calm and full of laughter. "Told you, Billy. Warm hearts can light a city." Then silence. The hum faded into a steady, peaceful rhythm. The engine's lights dimmed to a soft amber glow. On its surface, new words appeared, heart synchronized. Bill fell to his knees, tears mixing with rain and dust. Lila placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not just a machine," she said softly. "It's a promise." He looked around the chamber at the light still lingering in the air like dust motes made of love. "We did it," he whispered. But Earl, standing at the ladder's mouth, looked out into the street where the black SUV had been. It was gone, only the hiss of wet tires fading into the distance. "They'll be back," he said. "Anything that bright draws shadows." Bill nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready." Outside, the rain eased. The neon sign above the gas station blinked once, twice, then steadied. Cold drinks, hot coffee, warm hearts, and for the first time in decades, every letter glowed. The morning after the storm, Maple Street smelled of rain and ozone. People wandered out of their homes, blinking at the clean light that lingered over the neighborhood, a brightness that felt gentler than sun. Flowers that hadn't bloomed in years lifted their faces. The rusted Coke machine at the station gleamed red again, as if it had just been painted. Earl leaned on the counter, watching the crowd gather. "Whole town's talkin'," he murmured. "Said the lights came back even where the power line's been cut for years. Some folks think it's a miracle." Bill nodded absently. He was reading the new line glowing faintly across the ledger's last page. "When the world asks for proof, remember, Faith needs no patent. Outside, a reporter's van screeched to a stop. Then another, and another. Within an hour, Maple Street was filled with camera crews and men in corporate windbreakers. They wanted interviews, samples, ownership papers. They wanted to know what kind of technology could do this. Lila watched from the doorway, clutching a mug of cocoa. "They're scared," she said. "It's too big for them." Bill looked at the small glowing hatch in the floor. The heart engine was quiet now, its light reduced to a single steady pulse. "They'll try to take it," he said. "And they'll kill it in the process." Earl nodded grimly. "Once the suit starts smelling power, they don't stop till it's gone." That night, after the crowd thinned and the last news van rolled away, Bill sat alone in the service bay. The station lights had dimmed again, the neon sign breathing softly in the dark. He traced his fingers over Frank's initials carved into the metal box. Some treasures can't be mined. He thought of his uncle working here in secret, believing that love could be measured not in money but in warmth. He thought of Lila's laugh, of the jars glowing like fireflies. And he understood what Frank had meant all along. The engine was never meant to be studied. It was meant to remind. A knock sounded at the door. Lila slipped in, her hair tousled from sleep. "They'll come back tomorrow," she whispered. "The men with papers. Earl says they've got government trucks." Bill exhaled slowly. "Then we only have tonight." He opened the ledger one last time. At the very bottom, in faint pencil, were coordinates. Not for a place, but a time. "When the heart beats in silence, return it to the earth." "Frank built it from the ground," he said softly. "Maybe that's where it belongs." They went down together. The chamber was cool, the copper veins dim. Bill placed his palm on the engine. "You did what you were made to do," he murmured. "You reminded us." The lights along the walls blinked once, twice, as if in acknowledgement. "Can we move it?" Lila asked. He shook his head. "It's tied to the soil, but we can put it back to sleep." He flipped the old switch labeled manual override. The engine's heartbeat slowed, the glow fading until only one thread of light remained around its plaque. Bill took the jar marked FH and set it beside the base. "Rest easy, Uncle," he whispered. "We'll keep the warmth burning." They sealed the hatch and spread fresh concrete over it before dawn. By the time the corporate teams arrived, the floor looked ordinary again, just oil stains and tire marks. They searched, measured, drilled, but found nothing except old wiring and the faint smell of gasoline. After a few weeks, the outsiders gave up. The miracle became rumor, then folklore. Reporters stopped coming. The city lights reclaimed their usual gray tone, but Maple Street never quite went dark again. The flowers bloomed early that spring. Strangers stopped to help each other more often. Mrs. Rodriguez reopened her bakery, and every night, the sign over the station shone a soft gold even when the power was out. Years later, people still told the story of the gas station that glowed after a storm. Some said it was an experimental energy source, others swore it was divine, but only two people knew the truth. On a quiet evening, Bill sat on the steps of the refurbished station, watching Lila hand out coffee to travelers. The place hummed faintly beneath their feet, a rhythm more felt than heard. She looked up at him and smiled. "Do you think it's still down there?" He smiled back. "I think it's everywhere." As dusk settled, the neon words flickered in perfect unison. Cold drinks, hot coffee, warm hearts, and stayed lit against the dark, like a heartbeat that refused to fade.